Hey everybody, welcome to the August 30th Tinderbox Meetup, and it's Labor Day weekend in the US. Why we're getting somewhat of a light turnout because people are out having a nice weekend. Um, so we're going to talk about whatever we want to talk about today. So there was a proposal to explore and experiment with Git as well. I didn't get to do a lot of homework on it, but we can just do the exploration real time together today, which I think it might be fun. But before we go around the room or dive into that, what else do you all have in mind, and what would you like to talk about today? Mr. Rogers, Paul, anything on your mind?
Nothing
You
comes
know,
immediately.
I, I
Yeah.
want to have Dave Rogers and Mark Anderson talk about documentary change control in command.
So I propose something really quick. I use, like all of us, stamps a lot in Tinderbox. And one thing I've never used or really understood is quick stamps. I always just write some code, create a stamp, and do it. If there's some way to understand or appreciate what quick stamps do for you, that'd be a cool thing to learn.
I use Quickstamp pretty much daily, so happy to show you what that is. And think about Quickstamp here. Let me pull this up here. Go ahead and share screen. All right, and see my screen. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Do you see a Tinderbox file on the screen? Okay.
Yep.
So I use Quickstamp pretty much, and you see a Tinderbox file on the screen just to make sure. I'm not really clear what everyone's seeing. Let's see if I can confirm.
Yeah, we're seeing it.
Got it. All right. So what Quickstamp? So what Paul, what Mr. Christie's referring to is you've got this thing called stamps, and so you can run stamps. So let's just create one of the quickest ways to create a stamp too is with the inspector. So if you hit Command 1, you can bring the inspector up, create a stamp, and you can say something like color equals red, right? So then we make that note red. So, and then if you have that stamp, we can go up here to the stamps menu and say, where's my, that's interesting. Why didn't that stamp save there? Okay, see if we get that in the stamps menu now. Yeah, so we've got change to red as a note. So if I go and add a new note now, I can say change to red, and ups, new note now, stamps, change to red, and that changed the note to red. So a stamp is nothing more than initiating a series of value changes to a note. Now, the nice thing with stamps, if we add the hits menu, you'll also find stamps down here in the stamps library. And what stamps allow you to do is string together multiple values. So I can either leave the semicolon or do a line break, and then I can say name equals stamp test. And again, I'm not being very creative here, but if we go here and now do that, and I change this note to red, and I can apply stamps this way too. And so now I've changed it to red and stamp test. So essentially what a stamp is allowing you to do is string multiple action code efforts along the way. Now what Quick Stamp does, and you can access that directly from here, the menu Quick Stamp, or you just hit Command 2, and that opens up the inspector. Now we often talk about hitting Command 1 to open the inspector, and Command 1 opens the inspector up to your up to the documents directory, which is here. And I think Command 3, if we do that, yeah, Command 3 opens up the to the prototypes. So you can have different commands 1, 2, and 3 to open up your inspector. Now Quickstamp is right here, and all Quickstamp is a quick way to change the value of an attribute of a note that you have selected. So if I've selected this note and I say text, all right, and I then go ahead and here is some text, apply, right? So all you're doing is modifying the value of any attribute without having to write yourself a stamp. So, and if that attribute is a set, or let's go ahead and do like tag. So if that attribute is like a set or a list, I can go tag. And then all I need to do is semicolons. Hello, goodbye, see you later. Right? And you're populating that value with the quick stamp. So it's a really, really effective way to go and change the value of an attribute without having, or multiple notes of an attribute. With that, like, so for example, if I select all of these notes and go to displayed attributes, and type the word color tags, I'm now adding the displayed attributes to every one of those selected notes based on the values that I've added. And then I'll be with you in just a second, Bruce. And then if I go back and say tags, I can now override the tags value with Bruce, Dave, Paul on every one of the selected notes. Does that help, Paul?
Michael,
Yeah, Bruce.
is it conceptually correct then to think of the stamps are like your macros, if you will, and that you're applying a series of actions, and quick stamp is kind of a centralized window into whatever changes you want to make, but it's one time and doesn't store anything?
I would say totally different, because macro
Perfect.
macro actually has a different term in Tinderbox. So if you go here, there actually is, here it is, export code. You have to
Sure.
have a function called macro. So I tend to, in the world of David Eddy, I tend to try to not confuse words. Macro means something in Tinderbox, so I would not use that in the definition.
So conceptually, what would you call a stamp?
A stamp is a way of applying action code once. It's a manual. A stamp is the manual application of action code, whatever that action code may be, one string or hundreds of lines of action code. Okay.
And then conceptually, what would you call a quick stamp?
The ability to modify the value of an attribute. You're stamping a value to any selected note to a specific attribute. So that's where the word stamp is a bit of a misnomer, because stamps, as we tend to think of them, are a means of executing action code once. A quick stamp is the means of executing the application of a value once. Whether or not that be a string or a set or some kind of, yeah, string or set pretty much. But I could add action code, I could be, so let me show, no, yeah, so let's say I go down here to this note here, and this might be a stupid example, but let's say I go here and I've got this stamp here, and we're going to say change to green. Okay, so I've got a note called change to green that's in my stamps folder. If I go to the quick stamp and I say text, and in the quick stamp I type color equals green, I have added the action code via quick stamp to the text attribute of this note called color equals green. So now if I go up here and apply it, I'm going to, oops. And now if I go and apply that stamp, I've now changed that color to green. Right? So the quick stamp is a way of changing the value of an attribute. The stamps is the way of applying action code.
But since action code can be in an attribute, you could do that.
Well, that's what I just did. So here, if I go down here and I type text, the value of the attribute text for this note is action code.
Correct. So what a quick stamp is, though, is just something you don't want to save it. It's a quick it's a way to apply change an attribute of one or more notes one time, and that you don't
And then move on. And then move on. Right.
right. You're not saving it for future use.
Correct. And then that way you don't have you're not going to be creating a bunch of chaff of stamps. I use it every day, all the time. Once you get into the habit, it just gets really easy. Select 10 notes, change their values, move on. All right. Paul, any other thought, comment, question about that?
No, I think that was really helpful because as you just described, I accumulated a chaff of one-line stamps in my hints folder.
Correct.
And I sometimes wonder, why I have to plow through all these things. And so if I just adapt quick stamps, like to change 5 notes from checked to unchecked, a quick stamp is exactly what I would use, but I end up writing a stamp and then keeping it around forever. So that's great.
Right. And so so on that note, for example, too, and stamps will apply to quick stamps will apply. So here, and then I'll put the check here so we can see it. Right. So here's the checked attribute. I'm in the quick stamps, and now I'm going to toggle that value on and off.
Yep. Another thing that I'll just mention that I have been using extensively lately is the highlights feature in text in Tinderbox. There's a lot of ways to, if you've got a document, a PDF or some text that you're reading, you can do it in all kinds of programs and highlight it. But I find it really effective when, say, I'm taking notes in a podcast that I'm listening to in Tinderbox. I just highlight the text that's important to me. I've got a container with a top level node and some child notes under it. All the child notes have some highlights in them. And then I just aggregate all the highlights to the top level note, and that's what I can refer to. It's highlights is really an underrated feature.
Right. And how do you go about aggregating those highlights? Do you use action code for that?
I use action code for that. I collect all the highlights from the child notes into the top level text attribute.
Okay. Now we've done that before, but would you like to quickly, since we've got time, would you like to show people how to do that? They might be interested. I can stop sharing the screen and you can show us your action code method for doing that.
Let me do some work here. I don't even have this up, but bring one up. All right, can I share this?
Yeah. Hi, Roger. Hi, Win. Didn't see you guys show up.
Hey, Michael. Everyone.
Is that visible?
Yep.
So, I mean, abstract from the contents here, I happen to have a podcast that goes out and gets us some Bible readings every day, and then it summarizes them using the online app podwise.ai, summarizes them into a digestible format that I then just drag into Tinderbox each day. I do this with all the podcasts that I listen to. That way I don't have to listen to them actually. But when I'm done with one, I'll take one, for example, and kind of demonstrate it. If you can see this, I've got a whole set of formats here, from a summary to keywords to takeaway to lessons, etc. I just highlight things from within this, from within what you're seeing here. And then I've got an action code stamp that I apply to the note. And it's as simple as this. It just says text descendants.highlights. I format them with a line end after each one, and it brings them into the top level note. And then my top level note is cluttered not with all the child notes, but actually with just the highlights of what I've been reading underneath. I do this with political podcasts and anything that I'm reading.
Nice. You want to give an example? Can you do some highlighting real quick? And do you have you found an effective way for like using hotkeys and such and for highlighting in Tinderbox? What do you do with that? Or do you just use the mouse?
So when you say hotkeys, you're talking about in the context of Tinderbox?
Yeah. So like when you highlight some text, rather than having to go up to the menu and click yellow, do you just hit a hotkey?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So if I'm looking at something, I've got some text here. And if I want to highlight the first line, I'm just going to go to do that here. Command Shift Y highlights it in yellow. And I can do that throughout the document that I'm reading, Command Shift Y. That's kind of built into Tinderbox, I think. And then when I go up to the top, I don't see that here, but if I run my stamp, it replaces the text with highlights. And now I see those new highlights brought in along with concatenated with all the rest of the highlights. If that made any sense.
Doesn't me, but let's others comments, questions. Bruce, Dave, makes sense.
It's effective for me because you read a lot of you bring a lot of text in from outside of Tinderbox, and any of the models that you follow, including yours, Michael, capture, curate, etc. You end up with a whole lot of captured stuff that you don't want to keep around forever. What I want to do is I want to highlight captured elements for things that I want to remember or that make sense to me, and create highlights from them, and then store the highlights in the top level note. So when I read the top level note, that's all I'm reading.
Completely agree.
Now, the thing I could do, which I haven't done, is after every highlight that I capture, it'd be nice to create a link back to the original document, but I haven't wrapped my head around that possibility yet.
Well, we could try that right now if you'd like. I'd happily walk you through that.
Yeah, if you've got any ideas.
Exactly how to do that, sure. Okay. But Mr. Eddie has to talk our question before we
Does Tinderbox, I had to reboot, so I missed something. Does when you've highlighted something, Paul, with those hotkeys, can you then sort of jump through a document from highlight to highlight to highlight?
That's what we were just kind of talk about. I've collected the highlights as a list, but what I would like to do next is make each of those highlights a reference back to the original document. Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and do that.
Excellent.
So go to your stamp.
Yep.
All right. So you've got text equals descendant dot highlights dot format. Now it's interesting. Your language is a bit different in that you said you were going to concatenate the existing text with any additionally new highlights that you added. And that's not actually the case with what you're doing here with this text. What you're doing with this is you're overwriting the text.
Correct.
And adding all new, not concatenating the new items. You're just
each time I'm doing a pull of all the documents.
You're doing a pull of all of them again, as opposed to a concatenation, which would be a different operation.
Correct.
If you were doing concatenation. So what I would do then is above the $ text.
Yep.
Create a line break. Type variable. So var : let's make it a list. And call it I don't know, v high or something, or HLT for v highlight or whatever. All right, and then equals nothing. Just give a semicolon. Okay. Now, why don't you then copy everything after text dot equals. Everything after text dot equals. And make that equal the v highlight equals that. Get rid of the semicolon.
Hang on a second. Get rid of this.
No. You've got V highlight semicolon. V highlight equal.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay. And you don't technically need these. You don't actually need the parentheses around text. No, yeah, right in the other.
Oops.
That one right there. Highlights.
I don't need that.
You don't need that one. That's fine. So what you're doing now is you are actually let's think about it. What I want to do is, oh, I know what I want to do. No, let's delete that line with the highlight. No,
This whole line.
Yeah, leave the list. Delete the VHLT. Delete that. Delete all of that. Okay, now what you want to write is hit a line break. Keep the list and type V list equals collect, and then parentheses children, or descendants actually, because if you have subchildren, just do descendants. It's easier. Comma $ID. Okay, semicolon. Now what you want to do is you want to have another variable, hit a line break, that says now, so what we want to do is now we've got each individual child note. Now we want to pull the highlights from each individual child note. So now you want to say V list, or so make it another list. Now you have V highlight. And you're going to say, grab your text descendants highlights code again. There you go. And rather than saying descendants, yeah, you can delete that. And you got an extra, I don't know why you have that. Oh yeah, no, you got to put that back. Yeah, there you go. And then get rid of the, so rather than saying descendants, say ID. Oh, I got it. No. VList. I just got it. I have an idea. Okay. Actually, do you mind, Paul? Let me take control.
Sure.
No. Share screen. Request control. Thank you. All right. Otherwise, I think it's just going to drive you crazy. So we've got this list. So we've collected the list of the children. And now what we want to say is vlist.each x. So what we want to do here then is for every one of the children, we now want to populate, and we're going to have another one called string, because this is ultimately going to be text. Equals v text, or v strings, fine. All right, so we've collected our children. We now have an empty string. Now for each of the IDs of list, what we want to do is we want to go and collect the highlights from that list. We also want to what we could do is we don't need this actually. String, and for each one we want the source. So variable string b source equals x. So what we're saying is, so the source of this highlight is the note x. So again, if you think about what we're doing, we're collecting the note, we're collecting the IDs of each of the notes of the children. And then we're saying for each of those notes, let's create a variable source for that ID. And then we're going to collect the highlights for that ID. And the highlights we should actually be putting into a list. This is what we're going to do. Variable string v highlight.
Variable list.
Yeah. Right. So what's going to happen is now
Not a string, it's a list, right?
the list. Yeah, you're right. So now what we're doing is we're now getting a list of every one of the highlights. So we grab the children, we process each child, we create a source variable for each child. And we then are creating a list of all of the highlights from that particular child. So that's how we get the by saying text X is the ID for that child. So we're grabbing the highlights from that note. So now what we can do is we can say v highlight dot each y.
This is a loop within the loop.
This is a loop within the loop, because now what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to add a link to the source. And let's finish this link. Variable string the link.
Do you need a lowercase y?
Yeah, probably. Oh, it doesn't matter, but convention would say yes. So now what we want to create the link is we want to say, and we're going to do it as do you want it as an HTML link or a markdown link?
I prefer markdown.
All right. So we say link plus again, I'm totally doing off this riff, so I have no idea if it's going to work, but I think it will. And we're going to be linking to that note. And so this is going to be, I should actually know what we can just do is, let me look up the ATB ref on the link too. We're needing a text link to the note. This should work, actually. We'll come back to that in a minute. I think let's just put X here for now, and we'll figure out this is the wrong syntax, but we'll figure it out real quick. And now what we're wanting to do is we're going to say y. Now we use our string. String equals plus equals y plus space plus the link. So technically what that should do, if I'm not mistaken, is this will grabs every one of the children notes. We'll create a link which is currently wrong for each of the children for that note. We then process each of the individual grab each of the individual highlights in that note, and then for each of the individual highlights, add the link code at the end of that note. And then,
so Michael,
yeah,
v string, you've got a plus equals. Isn't that only used for lists and sets?
No, because what we're doing here is what it's doing is every time you process each one of the notes, I want you to add the new highlight to the string.
Oh, so you're concatenating here.
Yes, so that's the concatenation. That's how you add That's how you add an item to the string. And then we're going to say,
Gotcha.
and then give us line breaks after you do the link. So if we go
Gotcha.
up here and grab one of your examples, let's do this one. Test. If we, where's some of your podcast notes?
You know, down under these things called reflections. Like
Where's that?
that's a good one. You know, on
Here?
no, that's the top level note, just above that one.
Just about here.
One down, right there.
All right. Let's just grab this. Okay, so let's say if we had this, and we're going to go ahead and that yellow. Yeah. So if we do that, that's funny. Coming off the screen for some reason. All right, so then if we do this, which stamp was it?
It was replace text with highlights.
Yeah, all right, so that didn't work. So let's see what's happening here. But here's another interesting thing to do when you're playing with something like this. You say text window.
Yeah, I use this all the time.
Yeah, you're only sharing your screen. You're not sharing your desktop, so we can't actually see the window that came up.
Let's see. Should I change that?
If you don't mind, share the whole app. That's another thing for people to see.
Let's see. Does that work?
Yep. So by using the text window, we then can have our stamp. Oh, I need to ask control again. So I'm doing something wrong here. So let's go back up to our test. So we've got our test. And then this is where we can do some shows. So we're collecting. So let's pretend or play with this. So show the list.
You can use the log commands too if you want.
Yeah, you can, but when we don't have the logs and we're not clear what's going on, the other thing to show people here is columns. Yeah, add a column. And since we're just testing notes, we can go like this and focus here and say ID. So we can look at the notes. And so we see here are the ID numbers of the notes we're looking at. So if I apply this, I get a show. So I'm seeing 27 and 28, 27, 28. So I'm seeing that I'm actually getting the children that I expect that I want. So
This is really nice.
So that's working. So then I go down and say, okay, so now I'm going to process each one of those children. So there's something going wrong in here. Oh, that's it right there. I think that's where the problem is the code's breaking right there. And what was I doing with the list? There we go. So we're creating a source, we're creating a link, which doesn't matter. And let's just get so v highlight.textx highlights that format. Oh, I could be breaking because we're creating a list, so we don't need that there. And then we're saying, make sure this is the right spelling. Each Y. Say add the. Oh, I know. Yeah, okay, so let's do this. And then we can say here, let's see what we're getting. Show.
Capital H.
So if we do that, then we're going to show what we're getting from each of these. So we're getting a variable name, so the variable is not getting properly
Assigned.
assigned. And why is that? Do I have a here variable list? Typo. There we go. Okay, so we're actually getting our highlight list, so that's good. So we know that's working. And we need to see now why. Text, not test.
Yep. Yep.
Looking typos. God, it can be the death of me. There you go. So
Beautiful.
that show and so and we're seeing we have two highlights in here and we're only getting the one. So we've got to understand why that's happening. Yeah, okay, so we're grabbing that. So let's do and there's the second one.
Michael, question, when you are using show like that, are you clicking in the show field to advance through each one?
No, it's just automatically doing it. And the other thing you can do too, you can say like this, like remember the syntax. Red, white. I think it's 1. And that will make sure that they only come up like so I'd have to look at ATB ref if I'm wrong. So now I'm getting red. Yeah, so so what that's doing is you can make the background red, make the white, and then this is how many seconds
Gotcha.
the show shows up. So that was too fast for us to see. It's defaulted at 5 seconds. So now if we go stamp it again, now you'll see the show will show up every 3 seconds. We're going to get the next 2.
Perfect.
And then 3.
Perfect.
So that's the but it seems to be but if you look, we're not getting the second highlight. Keep doing that. So that's the wise heart one. Ear. And wise heart, give ear. So it's not, oh.
Are they twice the same thing?
Yeah, we're grabbing the same thing. That was a random.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not likely to happen.
What are the odds of that? All right. So let's delete that. All right. So now if we do it. Okay, so now we're not getting so what's happening is we're not getting the second highlight in this note. Oops, sorry. Where's the window? So for each IX, for now, let's just do this real quick. Why aren't we getting that highlight? Let me do that. So we're getting the first one. So for some reason, we're not getting that. And so if we do this, this is how we can do another test. So we're going to, whoops. this is where playing with the stamp can come into play, just to see what I'm doing wrong. Or what I'm doing wrong. Let's say it's going to be something really simple once we figure it out. We're getting both. Yeah, so you see here we are getting both. So that actually works. So text highlights yellow works. So what's wrong with our other? Why aren't we getting both here? vlist equals text highlights. Ah, try this. You didn't actually tell it what color you wanted to pull. So it was probably just grabbing the first highlight because it didn't know what you wanted.
Hmm.
So then if we go like that. See, now we're getting both.
Now we get them both.
Because you hadn't designated the color. It was just grabbing a highlight and not all of them.
Perfect. So Michael, the links that you added will only be actually active links under the preview mode, right?
Correct, in that context. And then we'd have to look at ATB ref to see how that works. But that's but let's go back to that. So now if we go like that, now here's how we turn this into Markdown. And this is where quick stamp can be really helpful too. HTML Markdown equals true. Preview command is common mark and HTML up text. This is how those are the three variables you change to turn them be able to read Markdown.
Yep.
Okay, and so obviously those links aren't working. So we have to think about, I have to remember, and if we remember, oh, and I know why. Okay, the reason why it's not working now is I use ID numbers for my internal note navigation, but Tinderbox is going to be using note paths. So what we want to do here is we go back to, unless you've modified things. So the source X, we actually want to have path X, because that will actually give us the path to the notes when we preview. So if we do this, that not work. Get this out of the way here. Oh, and source. Now if we do that. So now we're getting the path to note. And this is where I think this parenthesis is going to cause a problem, but we'll see. That is interesting. Yeah, it's not recognizing that.
Has to escape the parens.
Maybe, or let's see what's it doing. Yeah, it's not seeing this as a valid Markdown link because of so in that case, let's do this. Just for up, not there. Sorry. Let's play with it here. We're going to say quote v equals path, and then
Don't you have to close caret the href? No.
I do. Yeah. So that should work. So now if we redo that. So now we're getting HTML links. But this is, I have a feeling yeah, let's try this. So if we go back up to our test, let's close that. We don't need that anymore. Let's move this up to the root. So we're getting rid of the parentheses.
Mm-hmm.
Reapply the test. So pass will be different now. So now we seem to have a clearer. Yeah, it's not liking these relative references. Oh, actually, I'm not getting the see here, it's actually outputting a different character than we expect. Href equals. Why wouldn't it actually be giving me a real context? See, it's not giving me the carets like I'd expect.
Mm-hmm.
You see that? But it's
You
doing
have to escape the caret.
maybe. No, you don't have to, because this is, we're doing text right now. Let's try once more. Yeah, it's not seeing that as text. It's so weird. All right, so let's just manually fix it. Oh, I think I know. This needs to be in quotes anyway. So since that has to be in quotes, we make that single quote. Oh, that's what's happening. Because I put these in quotes, the quoting was off. So that should be a lot better. All right, so we're getting differences. And it's not liking this source. Here we go. There you go. There you
Aha.
go. Okay. Now the reason why that's not working is those notes haven't been previewed before. So we're getting close. And now here's the other interesting way to test this. We can actually see what's going on here. So if we go to the export tab, and we go to export and we change, okay, it's in downloads already. So let's use a temporary flops. Let's go to downloads. Where's your downloads?
Up at the top, maybe.
And let's create a test folder. Test 2. Test 3 is fine. So we're now in test 3. So and hit open. So now when we go and preview this note. Oh, and I think I know why too. Because we're not using a template. And so therefore it's not exporting the children.
Mm-hmm.
So go to built-in templates, HTML. Apply the HTML template to this. So now we're exporting the children. Okay. So then if we go and look at the I'll have to play with the linking. I don't remember relative referencing in Tinderbox can be really hard, but it's something like this. And then if we go to your, can you open up your Finder real quick and go to that test folder we brought it? Download, go to downloads test 3. Yeah. So that's the test file we just created. So if we go so if we go preview, oh, I see. HTML page. So now that we've previewed these notes, and if we go look at the Finder again, you'll now see all right, I would have expected those notes to be previewed. Okay. That's we're in test 3. Oh, here. Got 1. Yeah. 2. So you see these notes are now showing up because they're now being previewed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're not coming up because the let's play with this real quick. I want to get a lot of space in here. So that one to previews. Yeah. Okay. So something's going on. I have to look at my code. Something's going on with the relative reference link, but that's kind of what the process that you'd want to go about doing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Very helpful. And great to see how your mind works as you go through some of these coding things and iterate through.
I'm sure it could have been a little bit more efficient, but that was the starting cold. That's what I'm thinking. And again, I just gotta. And again, I would have to look it up at ATB ref. But you're now seeing we're now getting a let's do this. Here's another test to be really interesting. So if we open this up with Google. Can I open it?
Yeah, I use Safari, but
All right, does it cancel then? All right. So there is the file. And
if you look in the text, it's just got link as part of the href, not any link to anything.
What do you mean?
Well, if you go back to Tinderbox and look at the export there, in the blue text there where it shows the open up href, the link is just the word link.
Right. But its path is this.
Oh, gotcha. Link is just the placeholder text.
Yeah, it's the anchor text.
Yeah.
Right. The path that it should be linking to is this. So, and I think that is because, let me preview this note. I think if we preview that note, now we got our note 0 there. We open this one back up. Refresh. All right. Yeah, this one's not getting rewritten for some reason. Go back to Tinderbox. All right. So it should have rewritten this note. Not yet. It's where is it? How do I close this tab? Oops, sorry. Yeah. Yeah, and again, this is strange. I don't know why Tinderbox is not adding our note 0 into the export file, even though we've refreshed it. Let's go to, So we've got our note 0 here, but Tinderbox is not updating this one. So sometimes you have to, let's play with this. Let's move that to trash, which will force Tinderbox to reproduce that file. So now if we open it, yeah. So now I suspect, yeah, there's something going on with the relative paths. Let's see, what is that link? Ah, so you see there's something wrong with the link. We're getting a %2020.
Mm-hmm.
And that's interesting. So then if you go back here to Tinderbox, here's the right file. We can actually see what's going on with that link. Oh, it's not seen. Yeah, so you get the idea. We have to figure out what the paths are and all that. We don't necessarily need to waste more time on it, but at least you're kind of going to how I'd go about it.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I can kind of play with it from there, because that's the end result here. I mean, you get the highlights, you look at the highlights. If you want to expand on where the highlight came from, you hit the link and you go back, and then your loop is complete.
Yeah, and if you go back to the files that I created in the 5C school, the answer is in that relative reference. See, what we're doing is we're building relative references. So let me show you this real quick. Again, not to be personally promotional, but I'll just do it. What is my, I can't remember the URL. Yeah.
5Cs, I might already actually have.
See if it comes up on, there it is. So I think what and you already have access to this file.
I believe so.
I think what you're looking for is the relative reference file, and this one, and that's why it's taking too long I don't want to spend the time right now, because I spent a lot of time, hours, days building this one. One of these templates, I'm sorry, products. One of these templates is the relative referencing file. Yeah, this one. So if you pull the code out of that one, you'll be able to help develop your.
Very good.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you.
I just don't remember it off the top of my head. I did it like 5 months ago, so I don't remember relative reference. Okay, awesome.
Thank you.
Before we move on and close the screen, let's take a step back for those that have been dutifully and quietly and patiently watching us play. Anybody have any thoughts, comments, questions, observations based on what we've just done? Where's that here? There's the stamp. Anybody thoughts on all of that? Bruce,
There were a couple things in chat.
Oh yeah, I'm not looking at the chat. So anybody want to make a comment, or you want to read the chat to me? What are the what are the comments? Yeah, for some reason,
A couple departures. Okay, nothing, no questions in chat.
Great. All right, you can stop sharing screen, I guess. All right, now if you like, we lost David. We were just about to do the Git stuff. Or we can do that later. Anybody else have any other thoughts or comments, questions about, or any projects you want to touch on? I can prepare for Git maybe next week. Otherwise, we can just stumble around and play around a little bit more, or we can just call it quits for the week. All right. So why don't we do this? I will prepare a lesson for Git for next week. So, or if you want, we can spend our last 30 minutes of me just stumbling around and showing you Git as we figure it out together. What do you think, Paul?
You know, if you can set the context for Git and give an intro, that'd be great.
All right. So why don't we do that? So let's share my screen. Okay, so Git is a revisioning tool. Let me see if I can pull up a Git website. Git. So Git is a open source methodology for managing file revision. And essentially and again, I'm not an expert in file revision management in any way, shape, or form, but basically what it allows you to do is version control files. And it's often used by coders, especially in collaborative environments, when multiple people are working on one common code set. They can contribute to a growing body of knowledge of work and check in and check out elements of code, and helps manage who does what and when on a particular file or activity. So this is what Git is. And Git is, let me drop that in my notes here. And Git is, as Mr. Bernstein was explaining to us a while back, is natively built into the Mac OS. So if you go here, so we've got this file here I've created called Git test1. And if we pull up our activity monitor, not activity, I need my terminal. And Git as an application runs on as a command line application. So if we go here, and let's see, where did I put my Git test file? All right, so let's go ahead and do this. So I have on my file under the path, let's create a text file here. Go to BB edit real quick. Let's do this. So I'm going to go here and let's create a new Tinderbox file. Move it onto the screen and let's save it to downloads. Git test. TBX aug 30. All right, so we've got a Tinderbox file that we've now saved into this directory, and we have its path. So what we want to do, and I did as a command line tool, as noted, what Git does, and I was looking at just before the call, I was looking at ChatGPT, and I was asking it to give me the commands that I would need to be able to create a Git repository and initiate elements. So what you do is you first set up a Git repository, and a Git repository is basically all of the code that helps you manage the revisions of code. And then once you've done that, you then can run the command commit, which will commit updates to that Git repository. So what we can do with this is we can, sorry, I got stuff in the way. So before I keep rambling on, does this make sense, Paul, or those on the call? What we're trying to accomplish?
I think I'm missing the overall context of why we're doing this.
So the overall, yeah, so that's why I wanted to pause. So the overall context is revision control. So let's say you're working
with Tinderbox documents.
with any document. right? So in the context of Tinderbox, we're talking about doing revision control with the Tinderbox document. So I have a file, I make changes to that file. I then want to manually create a revision of that file so that I can revert back to it someday if I want.
So in
Right?
the case of my highlights file, I started out with a version. You, by grabbing string control, made some changes to the context or the action control. With this process with Git, I could roll back to my original one.
Correct.
Okay.
If you had saved a version before if you had committed your version before I had started messing around with it.
Gotcha. So commit, every time you hit commit, you get a version stored.
Correct. So let's go ahead and there's another application called Tower. Let me pull it over. According to Mr. Bernstein and others that I've sent, there's an application called a Mac OS application called Tower, which is, let me pull it onto my screen just a minute. This is the Mac application Tower, which allows you to basically run the Git commands. Come on, my screen's messing up. That lets you run the command line through the GUI of the Tower app versus having to use the God,
So Michael,
yeah, go ahead.
in Tinderbox itself, the app, under the file menu, there's a revert
That's totally different.
option.
That's
Okay.
the Mac OS time machine function, and it can get really kind of squirrely, like we've talked about before. Especially,
Okay. All right.
and again, revert's not a, yeah, revert. It's not as reliable as say the Git reversioning control app. Okay, so let's go ahead and set our. Again, I'm not by any means an expert on this, so let's just walk our way through this and see if we can make it work. So we first want to change our path to user downloads TBX get test. So let's go CD downloads CD. Oops. Am I in my downloads folder now? Okay. Let's just do this. I want to grab this path. CD2. Oops. All right. See, oh, no such file directory system exists. It does. It's right here. Copy. Right mouse click here. Copy path. There we go. All right. So, operation not permitted. Apparently, I'm not allowed to do a list operation in downloads folder. Interesting. Okay. Well, we are now in my TBX get test config directory. And now what I want to do is I want to initiate Git. Okay, so apparently I can't initiate this kind of operation in the downloads folder. So let's go ahead and do it in my documents folder. Pull this off for privacy reasons really quick. Looks like I don't have that kind of write access to my X. let's do this, and bear with me 1 second while I move a file over. All right. So I've now put this in my documents folder, so let's change it. So CD, let's do the path. All right, nope. All right, I might have a permissioning issue on my machine that I have to play with here. So let's see, get init. All right, I've got to check my, before we move forward, I'll have to check my permissioning, see what's going on. It looks like I'm having trouble doing these operations. Or maybe I'm not calling get right, which get. Ah, my path to get's wrong. So maybe if I do get space init. So I'm in my project. Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to play with it. Let me work on it next week, and I'll figure out what I'm doing wrong. But the whole idea is to be able to create a repository of your files so that you can then revert and commit them. Actually, I can show you this way using Tower. No, I'll just figure it out next week. It's just going to get confusing, and we'll do it next week. Alrighty. Okay, everybody, let's call it, and we will see you in September. Take care.